Cool. So the agenda for today, we're going to go through a quick overview of clearing on TSR last year. Then we're going to have the creative review of display, email, and for the first time ever, I believe, SMS. Then we're going to talk about some tips that you can use to stand out in clearing this year. And then, yeah, like I said, a Q&A session at the end. So let's just get to it. So the overview of clearing on TSR. So this is what it looked like last year. We had about 15.5 million daily users on the site, which is a massive amount of people. At around 17.2 million sessions recorded, over 36 million page views, and an average time of around just over 2 minutes. So really healthy stats and showing that people are really, really engaged. What we also did last year with our clearing audience who received your campaigns through our B2C, we sent them out a survey at the end. So anyone that received any communication over clearing would have received this 9-question survey. And what we asked predominantly was the kind of usefulness of emails and SMSs, the frequency at which they were receiving them, and then what they'd like to see more of and what we could do better. And we received really great responses. So 246 people came back to us and let us know what they thought. And these are the most common themes that we saw. So social proofing was a really important factor in their decision making. So knowing that their peers or someone like them had gone through this process and was able to almost kind of like vouch for it. Students also asked for more information on preparing for uni, with some suggesting like a survival guide, which I think makes total sense. I think the information about clearing can sometimes be confusing. And then if you do find yourself in clearing, you need that information, and it'd be really beneficial to receive that. They also asked about accommodation, especially with such short notice, and also student finance advice. What was really interesting is that people also asked for more mental health assistance, as clearing is such a stressful time. Couple that with the pandemic, I think, yeah, it makes total sense for us to address those issues in our upcoming campaigns. So if we start to then look at the creatives, what I wanted to do first is just quickly go over the ownership of our users on site. So as you can see here, I split it up by user sessions, page views, and then average session length. Yeah, average session duration. It's predominantly on mobile. So our users are on mobile, the sessions, which makes sense, and then the page views. The duration is highest on desktop and tablet, and then on mobile. But when you're thinking about your campaign, I think it's very important to then start to tailor everything to be mobile first, because if predominantly everybody's on their mobile, you want your campaign to be solid on a mobile device. So if we have a look at display, we delivered a whopping 76 million impressions across all campaigns. We tracked over 40,477 clicks and an astounding 224,000 in conversions tracked across all campaigns, like huge numbers. Not everyone has signed up to conversions. So if you have capacity to do so, let's definitely get them set up for you for the year ahead. So with the cookie deprecating next year, we might not be in a position to track the conversions. So yeah, let's definitely do it this year and then use that to guide in the future. So unsurprisingly, when we then split it out into ad units, the mobile leaderboard served the most amount of impressions, which makes total sense if everyone is on their mobile. The MPU also has a big chunk of the ownership. It's because the MPU also serves on mobile. So when you're thinking about creating your display campaigns, I would start with the mobile leaderboard and the MPU, and then work out into the other sizes. The CTR, again, the mobile leaderboard is quite big, and also the billboard. The billboard only serves on desktop, but it's such a large size that it packs such a great impact when it comes to the CTR. And then the conversion rate, which I thought was quite interesting, is the leaderboard has the highest conversion rate tracked against it. Yeah, really, really interesting. So just making sure that you're looking at all the different ad units whilst focusing on mobile first, I would suggest going forwards. Then we'll go into the layout. So I don't know if any of you were here last year when we went through all of the creatives, but last year when we did the review, and maybe I'll see if we can send out the last year's recording as well when we send out the information for this one. It was really interesting. The layout of the creatives was really split between the years. So one year it was like the logo, the message, and the call to action. And then the other year was the message first, and then a logo and a call to action. However, this year it was pretty much split down the middle, which was really interesting. The other thing that continues to decline is the use of real life imagery. So only one of the creatives that was in the top performing had one frame on its 5 frame rotation GIF. That had people on it. All the other ones didn't have any imagery at all, and it was all illustrations or like interesting use of color. So I would recommend not including real life imagery, as the trend is suggesting that it's on the decline. All of the top performing creatives as well, which is really interesting, had the call to action button in the bottom right corner. And it was made to look like the button almost overlaid on the creatives. And I thought it was just really interesting that out of all of the creatives, the best performing ones all had that. So maybe something to consider for your campaigns. And then moving on to colors. So I've done this for a few years now, and I'm glad I have, because now we have some data to look back on. What is really, really fascinating is that the colors that were really popular in 2019 kind of made a resurgence last year. This color here is like really, really similar. The same with this one, although this one is slightly warmer. And then we move into like a bluey tone, and then the yellow comes out, or like an orangey comes out again. In 2020, it was really kind of like blue and miserable, maybe. It was a little bit sad. It was a little bit, and I think it was totally reflective of how people were probably feeling in clearing in 2020, just with everything going on. But yeah, so the pinks are back, which from psychological association, it's associated with like compassion and nurture, but also it can be a bit resentful. The kind of ready color is energy and strength and courage, but it's also danger and anger. So yeah, I find it fascinating that the kind of like two psychological associations are really reflective of what they could be feeling. Like they could be wanting to be strong, but they're also feeling a bit of danger being in clearing. So yeah, really, really fascinating that these were the top ones. And I'm going to move on to messaging. We had some really great campaigns in clearing 2021. And there were some common themes that we were able to pick out. There was lots of mentions of the future. So like, what does the future look like? Your future starts now, that type of messaging. There was always an underlying tone of empowerment for students. So like, be the change, like be the one to do the thing, be the leader you always wanted to see. And then a lot of also conveying the value of the course. So for example, like, do you want to tackle climate change? Do you want to end poverty? Like, this is the degree for you then. Which we haven't really seen on such a mass before. So it was really interesting. And I think people really responded well to it because they could see, if I do this, it will get me to this place where I want to be able to make a change and I want to be able to influence and have an impact on the world. Interestingly, which feeds into the survey that we got back, the best performing creative in all of clearing mentioned mental health support being offered to the students. So it was a GIF, and one of the GIFs mentioned that they had a mental health support in place for students that applied. And I think that really resonated with students, especially since we got the survey back, that it really did have a massive impact on the performance of that campaign. And we're going to move on to the call to action. So yeah, the kind of light bluey line here at the top is hard CTAs, such as like apply now, do something now, call us now, etc. The soft CTAs are like find out more, discover our courses, and so on. And then no CTA is just there was no call to action whatsoever. So last year, the no call to action at all did really, really well. And historically, the apply now, call us now has done well since 2018, and then dipped last year. And then it picked up again, or dipped in 2020, and then picked up again last year, which I think, yeah, really intriguing. And I wonder if people were feeling a little bit more secure with how the world was and they wanted to apply now, they wanted to do something about it now, versus last year when they weren't sure what was going to happen. Were we going to go into another lockdown? Were they going to even be able to attend university, etc.? So I imagine the hard CTA this year is going to come back in full force and continue to be on the rise. Then I put together, after looking at the worst performing creatives that we had, and these were the kinds of themes that we saw. Some of these have been declining in performance over the last few years since I've been looking at the creatives, and some of them were new. But yeah, like I said earlier, the real life imagery continues to decline, and it's just they don't in display. They don't respond to it, versus email, which we'll go into a little bit later. But yeah, they didn't respond to real life imagery. Serif fonts, again, they didn't like. Impersonal, uninspirational, or factual information, such as like, we have 50 courses available, call us. They didn't like that. It needed something more. It needed to have a purpose. And then creatives not fit for the size or the device. So like I said earlier, to always do a mobile first process. So always design for mobile first and then move into desktop. Some of the creatives looked like they were designed for desktop and then just shrunk for mobile. But what happens then is that the creatives they don't translate in the way that you think it will, like just minimizing the size. Like, you can't really read the text. It becomes really difficult to see if you've done any animations and stuff like that. So yeah, just making sure to always do mobile first. And then I'm going to move on to emails. How are we doing for any questions, Oscar? I appreciate I've been talking about
this. None so far, actually. I'll let you know.
Cool. Cool. So emails, this is what clearing last year looked like. So we sent out 1.3 million emails. We had around 428,000 opens, around 14,000 clicks, and the highest recorded click to open rate was 32.5%. I have added the click to open rate in here because that's how we've reported on the click performance. However, in my next slides, I'm going to talk about the click to send rate. Just with the iOS update and the open rates becoming more and more unreliable, it will have such an impact on the click to open rate because the click to open rate is based on the open rate as a stat. So I'm going to talk about it in the click to send rate, which is a more reliable indicator of how the email did. So if we look at the templates here, we have template 1 here, template 2, 3, 4, and then HTML or any kind of other emails that we did. And as you can see, template 2, same as last year, absolutely killing it. It is the most popular template that we send out. In terms of the open rate, it has kind of a share with template 1, the HTML, and template 4, with template 3 being the highest of all of them. And then when we move into the unique click to send rate, it comes back up as template 2, having the biggest kind of share of the click to send rate. So even though the open rate dips slightly, the metric that kind of really matters is really high for template 2, which is really, really great to see. And the template 3 kind of dips down. Obviously, we have more data and more opportunity for like template 2 to shine because it is the most popular one. But I think it's a really good indication of the kind of layout that people respond to. So if we have a look at the subject lines, so these are the kind of subject lines that we saw last year, and really kind of opposite to display, which is usually looking at the trends. Usually what happens is that display and email almost contradict each other. And I think it's because emails feel more personal because they're sent directly to you versus display that is just on a page on the internet. It doesn't feel as personal. So the subject lines, really factual about offering and not really emotionally driven whatsoever. Maybe the only kind of one were subject lines like this, like, are you ready for tomorrow? But most of them just were short, mentioned the uni's name, mentioned the course that was on offer, some mention of time, so like tomorrow, or there's still time to apply, or etc. And then of course clearing mentioned as well. So like I said, start a nursing degree at TSR, there's still time to apply to TSR, etc. As for the imagery, like I said, it contradicts with display. People really prefer to see real images or real life images in emails. So the top performing kind of imagery had boxes overlaid, like you can see here at the top. So it's almost like it was an image and then there was a box and then the text was within that box. They all had a call to action within the header, but some of them had more text, like study nursing, apply through clearing, etc. Call to actions were also included in the subsection images. And what kind of showed as well is that the header image wasn't like very busy as an image, but the subsection images then became much busier with like more people, for example. So let's say if there was only one person in the header image, there would be like 5 people in the subsection images. Lots of people looking straight ahead, but then with like varying graphics and illustrations to kind of like draw the eye into those images. And then the images were always appropriate to what the section was. So I put like laboratories for science, but you know, you can imagine like people on a mountain for geography or whatever. And for the messaging, the most common themes for the messaging in 2021 was that they were like short and to the point. So not waffly, not over explaining, but almost like supportively factual, if that translates. That's an informative step-by-step copy of how to apply. So really giving people the tools that they need to be able to get a place through clearing. There was an inclusive tone throughout. Courses were also explained and laid out clearly. So if you think about the subsections, what was a really popular thing was that each subsection was a different course. So let's say like the top of the email was like apply through clearing, this is how you apply now. And then it'd be like, yeah, like adult nursing, mental health nursing, whatever different other types of nursing courses that were on offer, all displayed within the one email. What was really popular as well was clearing FAQs, which people really responded well to. And then accommodation featured quite a lot as well in the top performing emails, which if we look back at the survey that we spoke about in the beginning, that makes total sense because people need that support. The call to actions, so similarly to 2019 and 2020, there was a variety of call to actions, but what has stood the test of time is the wraparound of hard CTAs. So if you imagine your header and your footer being kind of like apply now, call us now, and then your subsections being your courses, find out more. Yeah, they seem to really respond to it. And I think it's because they can choose what they want. So are they in a position that they want to apply now? If that is the case, then they go ahead and apply. But then if they just want to find out more about the courses that are available, they can also do so. The most popular one was apply now. And the most popular soft CTA was view courses with lots of find out more and vacancies mentioned in the top soft CTAs as well. And then what to avoid for clearing this year. So looking at the worst performing emails, a few of the themes became apparent and should be avoided. So images that do not contain people. So think like images of your campus with nobody around, or like landscape images. And then large images that exceed the mobile screen size. So if you include an image that a person has to scroll to see the whole image, it doesn't work and they don't respond to it. Complicated or inaccessible language and grammar, using an unsupportive tone. What was really interesting was the soft CTAs in the header image. They just didn't respond to it. So like the find out more or view our courses in the header image was not popular at all. And then long copy in your call to action. So like apply now to study nursing so that you can change the world, probably wouldn't do the trick. I'm now going to move on to SMS. So for the first time ever, I believe, we were able to track all of the clicks through all of the campaigns really easily and to be able to see the performance of them. So we sent around 88,000 SMSs, had around 3,800-ish clicks, and the highest CTR we got was 30.89%, which is huge, like a massive click-through rate. But really, really great to see. And even though it's not technically a creative, I did want to really include it because it's such a short piece of text. I think it's about 95 characters with spaces that we allow, but it packs such a big punch. And these were the kind of messages that came that did really, really well last year. So the actual SMS messages were quite similar to subject lines for the emails. So they mentioned the uni names, they mentioned courses, available places, and of course clearing. But yeah, it's really quite similar to the subject lines. And the CTAs, it was quite a mix between like hard CTAs and then no CTAs at all. So yeah, still looking for a nursing place. We have clearing places available. And then yeah, including like the phone number and a link as well was did quite well, which was really, really great to see. And I think it's such a great tool because it's such digestible information, like directly sent to students. Because when you get a text, you always look at it, right? Like in one, you know, like it might not be right there and then, but you always look at it versus an email, for example. You mightn't look at it for, you know, a couple of weeks, let's say. But it's so direct that it's so easy for people to engage with it. So yeah, I just really, really wanted to mention that quickly. So, tips to stand out in clearing 2022. So I wanted to put together kind of looking at what the landscape is looking like going ahead this year, but also like practical tips that you can take away and have a think about and then apply to your upcoming campaigns. But before we do that, I wanted to do a little poll about how you're feeling about your Clearing 22 campaigns. So Vicky, if you're able to just share the poll. Cool, so you can just choose the one that you think is most applicable to you. So I'll just briefly read them out. We've done our research and finalized our campaign approach. We're finishing off our research and should have sign off soon. We're at the beginning of our research process and have some ideas. We haven't started the research yet, but have some initial ideas. And then we don't even know where to start. Please help. So I'll just give a couple of seconds for that.
Okay, it's just a few more coming in. 2 seconds.
Yeah. Thank you, Vicky.
Okay, close that now, and then go.
Amazing, cool. Yeah. Okay, wow. Finalizing off your campaigns now. Yeah, cool. So most people are kind of at the beginning and have some ideas and stuff, which is great. And then we can move. Then hopefully we'll be able to help you out a bit with the following. Cool. So I'm going to just quickly read out. So our head of student engagement supplied this here. And I think it's so important to keep in mind when planning your activity and your campaign. So I'm just going to read it out. Students have faced an unprecedented level of disruption over the last few years, with this current group of year 13s experiencing the most so far. With no experience of a GCS exam season and significant disruption to their schooling, it's likely that many will feel ill prepared for the challenges and decisions they will have to make from now till August. With little previous experience of what is to come during the A-level exam season, students are also being expected to tackle a brand new way of revising and learning as advanced information is given out for the majority of their subjects. Our recent surveys showed that 67% of students did not understand how best to use this advanced information to tackle their revisions. The school is still feeling a significant resource pinch due to the ongoing staffing challenges because of COVID-19. It is often the auxiliary student support, such as careers advice or university application support, that is the first to be reduced. All of these circumstances, coupled with the steady climb down of historically high grades over the last few years, means that this cohort of year 13s may face the toughest challenges of the pandemic to date. They are likely to face huge amounts of pressure and anxiety and will be seeking out genuine support and guidance more than ever before. So what can we do about it? Highlight the support you're able to offer to students throughout your campaign. Do you have accommodation support? Do you have mental health resources? Highlight all of these because they are seeking them out and students do need them and they factor it in when making their decisions. Give evidence of social proofing wherever possible. So yeah, like I said in the beginning, they want to see their peers. They want to see people like themselves having gone through this and succeeding. And the more that you're able to prove that, the more people will have trust in your campaign. Address the issues young people are facing head on. They're probably facing more issues than ever before, like climate change, political, socioeconomic, etc. Like, how do we help them so that they can face those issues and tackle them? So the more you're able to do with that, the more people will be engaged with you. Be factual whilst also being inspirational. So yeah, kind of what we were saying with the emails and with the display, it needs to be like inspirationally factual. So you need to be able to show that by them doing something, that it will get them to, like by doing A, it will get them to B. And by being at B is the best place to be. Remember that there is potentially a very anxious person at the end of your campaign, so tailor it accordingly. I know historically we have wanted like clearing to be a positive thing, and I think it still is. I think when we don't address the fact that it's a highly, highly stressful time, and not just for students, like we all work in clearing and we know how insane it can be. If we don't address them, we lose out. We lose a potentially amazing person that could just be extremely anxious. So keep that in mind as well. Avoid complicated messaging. So you need to make sure that your campaign is accessible to everyone. And this actually feeds into both your messaging, but also into how you design your campaign and your creatives to make sure that everyone can access it. What is your why? It should be easily understood. So like, why are you running this campaign? It should be easily understood by prospective students and why, as a university, you do the things that you do. When you have your USB, make sure that it translates to young people. I am by no means like in the lingo or anything like that, but make sure that the USB really does translate and resonate with young people. So I'm sure there's been loads of research that you guys have done and stuff, but just making sure that it's definitely something that translates well with them. say set your ethos early on, and then use them to govern all of your decisions. So at the beginning of your campaign, set what the ethos is going to be, and then try not to deviate from it, because students are extremely savvy and they will see through any insincerity. And I think the more sincere that you are and the more you use your ethos to govern everything that you do, the better response you will have. Because if you don't do that, people will see through it straight away. And then this is exactly the same slide that I put in last year, but I decided to keep it in this year. But I want us to have a think about, if we were to make a really, really large investment of money during the most stressful time of our lives, what would we want? What would we need? What would we want to see? What kind of messaging would we want? What would we want the ethos of that institution to be? And how would we be able to access it? So just something to think about. So any questions or comments or feedback from me? Let's do that. Don't know if anything's come through, Oscar.
No, not yet.
No, all good. Cool, amazing. Yeah, thank you all so much. I would love if you wanted to stay in touch, or if you wanted, if you had any questions afterwards. Like I said, the deck will be shared. And yeah, thank you all so much for coming, and do shoot me a message if you have anything you wanted to discuss afterwards. But really good to see that it was useful for people. And yeah, see you guys soon, and hope all of your clearing campaigns are amazing. Be looking forward to talking about them next year. Thanks so much.